Listen. There is a buzz in the atmosphere. Can you hear it? Can you feel it? The children are crying for it. The couples are fighting over it. The nations are voting for it. It's independence. The buzzword today is independence. Good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. Who I am for this talk perhaps is irrelevant, because the message I bring today is neither just for me or only those that can relate to me, but it is a universal message for us all. Today I aim to dissect this thing called independence and the buzz around it. Because whilst it may not be the elephant in the room, it is certainly the invisible fragrance in the room. But before we go any further, let us just note how far our society has come. Because in many ways, the last century has seen a great positive change in our society. In many ways, it has become more equitable. We as individuals of all races, gender, sexuality, and age have been empowered to contribute to the society and to embark on our own personal pursuits of happiness. And this is a good thing. This is a positive thing. Nonetheless, whilst we must see more change, today my talk will focus on the dangers of an overshoot, on the dangers of too much change. It seems that somehow, as a result of this transformation, ironically, our society has developed an individualistic culture, where success is no longer defined by your achievements or your contributions, but whether you had help or not, whether you achieved it alone. It is this culture, specifically, that I wish to talk about today. Today, society tells you that I am independent when I, and I alone, am enough. For guys, you are told, in the words of a famous politician, that you must be a self-made man. Ladies, you are told that, in the words of a famous artist, you are told that you must be Miss Independent. Neither of these things are bad things in and of themselves. But what I find perilous is a society driven by a desire to be self-sufficient, where individuals are driven by a desire to be self-sufficient. I too think this is a good definition of success, being independent, on paper. But there's just something lacking about it. Most notably, it just takes away our sense of community. I mean, why not take a moment to ask yourself, when did it become normal? When did it become normal that you board a train every morning, every day, as the same person, but yet the blurb of the book they're reading speaks to you more than that person? When did it become normal that our elderly have only their pensions and their carers for companionship? When did it become normal that our careers become our best friends? Perhaps this explains why London, Europe's sixth largest city, with 7 million people, was found by Google Trends to be the sixth loneliest city in the world. It seems we have reached this conclusion that independence is the greatest good, the highest pleasure, from the truth that all people are created equal. or we're motivated by the truth that all people are created equal. But the dangers of this logic is that it assumes just because we are all created equal, we are all the same. There are differences between men and women, between cultures across the world, and between different generations. But this is a good thing, because it's this diversity that makes us beautiful. It's this diversity that makes us innovative, that makes us productive. And ignoring this is unhelpful and dangerous. You see, it seems to me that whilst independence is better than dependence, the buzz is perhaps turning into a noise. The fragrance is perhaps turning into an odor. And that is why I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that I believe that we have overshot, we have missed the mark. And I present to you that we should aim not to be independent, but we should aim to be interdependent. Because the truth is, the society is in equilibrium when we all work together. We achieve much more. No amount of money, intellect, or gifts can change that. Let's just take a moment to think about that. I believe this is the first step we must take. And in the words of a Roman thinker, the society is like a body. For the eye cannot turn to the hand and say, I don't need you. Neither can the head turn to the feet and say, I don't need you. On the contrary, it was those parts that seem weaker that are necessary. I appreciate that what I'm telling you is neither new or sophisticated to some of you, because I know that you could have learned these lessons before you walked in outside and you saw the ants and the bees who achieved much more by dividing their roles and labor across their colonies. You could have learned this by these geese, the birds that migrate. They tell us a great deal about interdependence. Geese fly in this V formation. They align their wings perfectly and time the beat of their wings perfectly to achieve maximum aerodynamic efficiency. When traveling as a team, each bird uses less energy than if they were traveling alone. And this is what interdependence is about. And whilst this may not be sophisticated, it can be a tough pill to swallow. Because acting interdependently means that you have to rely on other people and give up some of the control. You're reliant on other people. And for many people, we would rather work 3 times harder by ourselves, alone, independently, than work with other people. But there is good news. Acting interdependently affords you the opportunity to have weaknesses. I don't have to be perfect. I'm allowed to have weaknesses because when I am weak, someone else out there is strong. In fact, your success is dependent on someone else's weakness. That gap in the market that no one else can fill. And this is a good thing, because we bring different things to the table. Now, this talk would be incomplete if we didn't look at the lessons from the ancient Greeks. The ancient Greeks have a great deal to tell us about interdependence. They had interdependence interwoven into the fabrics of their communities. They had a word, agape, which means a selfless love for everyone, even for strangers. I witnessed this love when I sat on a train and someone did speak to me. We spoke about how difficult it is as a student to get a job and to break into the labor market. He took my email address down, and 2 weeks later, he emailed me a copy of his company's interviewer's guide. This had all the questions they could ask me and the suggestions to what the interviewer should be looking for. And I was a stranger to him. And I still am. He hasn't contacted me to recall the favor. You see, in our society, we use money when I have something you want, but you don't have something I want. And money allows us to get rid of our dependence on a specific person having what we want and them having it at a specific time. This gentleman on the train realized that. Because money is effectively an IOU slip, which means I owe him something in return. But this gentleman realized that instead of using money as a medium of exchange, he used agape. He used love, a selfless act. And now he's left me forever indebted. He's now left me indebted with a debt that doesn't have to be paid to a specific person or at a specific time. And this is what interdependence is about. So that's what my talk comes down to. Firstly, I hope I encouraged you to break out of the individualistic culture. And secondly, I hope I encouraged you to keep the economy of selfless acts going, to keep the economy of agape going. And if you're wondering why must you do this? Simply because you are not the first. You will not be the first. It is only just to pass on these selfless acts. And on this, I would like to end on this famous quote by Dr. Martin Luther King, who says that all men are interdependent. Every nation is an heir to a treasure of ideas and labor to which both the living from all nations have contributed. Whether we realize it or not, each of us lives our lives eternally in the red. We are everlasting debtors to known and unknown men and women. Thank you.